ومن أعظم ما يحول بين القلب وبين الله عز وجل الغناء. هذا الطرب بالموسيقى، هذا إذا امتلأ القلب به فإنه يضعف محبة الله في القلب. فمن أراد أن تكون محبته لله قوية فليقطع هذه الأسباب وليهجرها وليبتعد عنها. نعم.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, on my main channel, I've mentioned music a lot. I've done song deconstructions. Now, on the second channel here, Bibliophile Hermit, I wanted to also start even more discussions around music. Now, the Noble Sheikh mentions the allure of music. I have some notes here that I'm consulting, and that it causes weakness in you concerning your love of Allah, and that if you would like to strengthen your love for Allah, that you need to cut off those things that cause it to cease. Now, we have far too many Muslims on Instagram that say music is halal and that it's permissible, there's nothing wrong with it, because they don't want to give it up. Okay? Now, the fascinating thing about music is the beat really takes over, alters your mood, and with certain violent lyrics, romantic lyrics, depressing lyrics, you begin to have thoughts of envy, lust, desire, malice. Music really is a sort of hypnotic guide on really dark paths when you can get into it. And if you see the trajectory that so many of these musicians take, they become more and more weird as they age. Madonna, Taylor Swift, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga. And it's not surprising when you see them become extremely feministic and occultic. And then, for example, Kanye West, he gets really famous, and he really spirals, becomes unhinged, and starts using his X account as a sort of digital confessional for his perversions, inadequacies, trauma, desires, and trolling, and he really falls off his rocker and destabilizes his career and then blames the Jays for it. And so, if you just look at different genres of music and the feelings you get after you listen to it, you have to really start thinking, what's going on here? And it's really sad when I see Muslim sisters blasting Cardi B or Nicki Minaj, and they get this feministic, bombastic attitude. And then these women will wonder why they're having trouble keeping a man and attracting a man, but that aggressive, combative, snarky, vindictive, boss babe attitude is repulsive. And obviously, if you have that kind of attitude, you're going to fight with your mother-in-law, if she's a good person, and with your husband's sisters, if they love him and care about him and are also pious women. Because very few people want the person they love in their life, their family member, their son, right, to marry someone who would behave in a way that degrades her son, degrades her brother, cousin, you name it, uncle. And music can really knock you off your motivational feeling inside. Like, you have this sort of momentum going, music can totally knock you off. Now, it's hard to escape music fully, but you can do your best to not intentionally put music on when you drive or anywhere else, so you don't have these musician accounts at all going on in your feed. Nothing musical, no orchestral, nothing like that. And at first it can feel daunting. How do you escape music? but it's possible. I grew up around music. My biological grandpa was a drummer. My dad was a drummer. And I used to listen to a lot of Chicano rap, Russian waltz music, different things. Like my taste was so vast. It would depend on what kind of mood I'm in. But now, as I've gone so many years now, since reverting, without intentionally putting on music and having a jig, it doesn't have the same effect, and actually is more of an irritating sound. And now, when I want to be calm, I put on sound of rain, ASMR pretty much. So, ocean waves, a blizzard, storms, waterfalls, rivers, creeks, stuff like that. And it's actually way more easy for me now to connect with my own thoughts, to control my moods, and I don't have that sort of arrogance that you get when you listen to violent music. If you notice that people, when they bump really aggressive music with a lot of bass, they puff up their chest, they feel hard themselves, they only feel tough when the music's on. And in the past, I would have to, I remember going to the gym, and if I didn't have my headphones, I'd go home because I couldn't work out without music to get me pumped and motivated. But now it's like I'd rather have a podcast, or I'll have something on in the background, someone playing a video game. And yeah, some video games, they have music. But my point is that I don't require aggressive techno music or rock or metal, rap, pop, you name it. I don't need that. And if I'm feeling sad, I have ways of remedying that don't involve music. But it's an incremental step. It's like weaning yourself off of something. Weaning yourself off of music and changing your perspective takes effort and time, diligence and patience, but it is possible. I totally feel more spiritual when I don't have that type of musical influence in my life. People will make all kinds of excuses. Vivaldi, Beethoven, Chopin. They'll say, oh, well, this music is great. What's the big deal? And then they totally ignore the more raunchy, degraded, and even sometimes depressing music and how it affects people's minds and puts your mental health into a spiral. A lot of people struggle with mental health, but if they just change their music and cut it off, and they really faced their issues head on and accepted accountability and responsibility for what they've done instead of scapegoating into this sort of musical matrix, they would actually heal, process it, level up, and go forward, inshallah. But it's very hard to do that if you constantly are relapsing with music. So do your best, cut it out. And I think another aspect of music is how people idolize the musicians themselves. And this is really quite sad, because so many musicians are in and of themselves despicable and promote the most despicable things in their music. And let's say you just had a fight. You put on Beyonce's to the left, everything you own in the box to the left. Like, this song makes you more angry, resentful, less forgiving, and always removes accountability from your own actions. So it's always his fault, I'm perfect, he's this, he's that. You don't really see how you contributed to the mess. And the music sort of reinforces this sort of I'm perfect ego, and it's really damaging towards your personal development. So try it. If you're struggling with music, cut it off. And you may get tired of telling people, hey, you should cut off the music here. But it's important to do, because Christians have really got led astray by putting bands in churches. Catholics used to do that sort of Gregorian chant, and it was quite whimsical. But now you go into some evangelical places and it's like a concert, and the women are lusting over the musician, and he starts to get groupies. And then you'll see women who, they go to sing, they're in a short tight dress with their cleavage bulging, and those men are staring at this woman sing with her great voice, and the wives are like, what's going on here? So it's a very strange thing that the Christians have done to sort of take away the seriousness of their churches, that they can't teach the religion. They gotta have a lot of performances and circus-like things in order to get people to stay there and listen. And it just goes to show you how fast that religion collapses. Well, different sects at least, because not all the sects are the same. But having music in church is quite counterproductive. And trying to escape your bad habits, but having the same music is going to be quite difficult. So if you're struggling, pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah help us all to not revert back to music, to get rid of it in our lives, to not look up to musicians, and for our children never to be musicians, and for us to not see them as anything really noteworthy in the whole sphere of the human condition. Please like, comment, subscribe, join the blog.